the summer of 1917. The Bolsheviks' influence spreads throughout the country. Thanks to Lenin's slogan, "I promise you peace, land, and bread." Other signs carry more threatening slogans. Down with the provisional government. Down with capitalist ministers. Leon Trotsky, 38, is a brilliant Jewish Marxist intellectual who has returned from exile in Paris and New York. Nothing about him is proletarian. Everything about him is despised by Stalin. Stalin, who is uncomfortable in public, envies his talent as an orator. Trotsky is skilled at rallying the crowds to the Bolshevik cause. So Kerensky, head of the provisional government, decides to get rid of the Bolsheviks. He launches a widespread police raid. 800 Bolsheviks are arrested, including Trotsky and Kamenev. Lenin escapes to Finland with the help of Stalin, who shaves off his famous goatee and disguises him as a farmer. Stalin stays behind. He becomes Lenin's messenger and gains in importance. Tension in the country is accentuated by the impending winter, making it an easy target for strikes and famine. After a 3-month absence, Lenin decides to return to Petrograd to kick off an insurrection. On the evening of November 7, 1917, the Bolsheviks take over all the capital's strategic points: the power station, the post office, the bridges. They free their prisoners. The Winter Palace, the Tsar's former residence, is the last refuge for Kerensky's provisional government. A battalion of young women are the only troops left to defend the palace. The garrison's starving soldiers have left in search of food. The cruiser Aurora, siding with the revolutionaries, fires a blank shot. This is the signal to launch the assault on the Winter Palace. The 140 heroic young women defend the palace to the bitter end. The Bolsheviks capture the members of the provisional government. Kerensky, their leader, manages to escape to America for a long exile. This coup d'etat is known as the October Revolution, in reference to the former Russian calendar. The actual date is November 7, 1917. The Bolsheviks are in power. Lenin forms his government. This Soviet reconstitution reproduces period footage, showing Lenin in his usual stance with acute short-sightedness of the right eye. Lenin, wanting to eliminate bourgeois titles such as minister, coins the term People's Commissar. He offers Trotsky the position of Commissar of Interior Affairs, who declines. Is it worthwhile to put into our enemy's hands such an additional weapon as my Jewish origin? So Lenin offers him Foreign Affairs, which suits Trotsky perfectly. For the first time in history, a woman becomes a member of a government. Alexandra Kollontai, an aristocrat who has embraced Marxism. She will remain in office for 4 months. Lenin names Stalin Commissar of Nationalities. He is in charge of managing independence movements near the borders. The Georgian, who has gained his trust, wrote a brochure in 1913 entitled Marxism and the National Question. 20 years later, Stalin will order the execution of 12 of the 15 ministers of Lenin's 1917 government. But for the time being, Lenin holds the power. He is president of the Sovnarkom, the Council of the People's Commissar, and master of Petrograd, the capital of Russia. Petrograd, November 1917. After the Bolshevik coup d'etat, life returns to normal. There are no more clashes between militia in the streets. Writer Maxim Gorky wonders, what is going to happen now? I fear that much blood will be shed, much more than ever before. Lenin is seen in public with his mistress, a French militant named Ines Armand, and his wife, Nadezhda Krupskaya, a Bolshevik from the early days. He is pressured on two issues, peace with Germany and an upcoming political threat. Months ago, the provisional government had organized elections. Lenin decides to maintain the elections to legitimize his power. The first free elections in Russian history take place on November 25th, 1917. Only 3 weeks after their coup d'etat, the elections are a crushing defeat for the Bolsheviks. They end up with 168 deputies against almost 400 for the socialist revolutionaries, who are more moderate and democratic. Lenin immediately dissolves the assembly. He establishes his dictatorship, which he christens Dictatorship of the Proletariat. He promises a society without classes. He suspends all liberties and rights, forbids the existence of political parties, and eliminates freedom of the press and the right to strike. Lenin designates all his opponents, left and right, as enemies of the people or counter-revolutionaries. To neutralize these enemies, he creates a new secret political police and names it the Cheka, using the Russian initials for Commission for Combating Counter-Revolution. Lenin declares, "We will launch ruthless mass terror. How can one make a revolution without firing squads?" The Cheka secret police is run by the Pole Felix Dzerzhinsky, a man physically diminished by the Tsar's prisons who has spent his life engaged in revolutionary activities. Dzerzhinsky has the persistence of an inquisitor. He states, "We have no use for justice. We are at war on the cruelest of fronts." This unique document takes us behind the scenes of the Cheka. The Chekists, recruited among the Bolshevist radicals and the worst psychopathic criminals, are filmed here after looting an apartment in what they refer to as the bourgeoisie's contribution. In 6 weeks, the Cheka, the secret police, carries out 50,000 assassinations. No law, no justice. The public prosecutor asserts, "We must go beyond executing the guilty. The execution of innocents will impress the masses far more."